Hello there, welcome to Whole Brain and Healing Show. Now, our brain is the wellspring of our feelings, behaviors, and experiences. Besides tapping on your prevalent and your character strengths, learning how to tap on all the potential of your brain unleashes your best and strongest self. Therapy can also help us in feeling whole again to make unleashing our strengths into the world more compelling. So join in our conversations with experts in whole brain and healing show. I'm Joy Leng and I'm a positive hypnotherapist, also known as the superpower activator. My joy is in empowering people with tools and techniques so that they can celebrate a strength based whole brain living using positive psychology tools, hypnotherapy, and other tools provided by our expert. I'm trained in various therapeutic and whole brain modalities such as CBT, hypnotherapy, SFBT, and so on. It is my joy to bring to you the whole brain and living series in this pandemic to support your well-being and the empowerment of your best and strongest self. This episode, this Ayurveda series, is in alignment and in conjunction with our Self Care Friday series, which is part of the Be Well series that we are conducting to support you in this challenging period. Now, Ayurveda is the topic that I have chosen to focus on. And Ayurveda has always been recognized and respected the intimate connection between the physical, mental, emotional and spiritual aspect of our being. And I thought that this is something that is really relevant right now as the pandemic is going on. We really should be addressing all the aspects of our being so that there is really holistic health going on in our lives. So Ayurveda looks at the relationship as a function of several complex factors, and which we are going to let Vasanthi share more with you about. So Vasanthi is the director of Innergy Ayurveda and Yoga Private Limited and the founder and the president of the Ayurveda Association of Singapore. And her keen interest in Ayurveda sparked in 2001 when she personally experienced the benefits of Ayurveda and yoga. She has delivered talks and workshops in Singapore, Asia for clients such as Taoyuan Singapore, Morgan Stanley, Nestle Singapore National Parks Board. Outside of Singapore, she has also been invited to speak at the Malaysia Medical Association, Changhua County Government in Taiwan, just to name a few. Vasanthi sits on the academic committee of the Hong Kong Academy of Neuropathy and has also been awarded the Dharma Award for excellence in promoting the scientific awareness of Ayurveda by the Association of Ayurvedic Professionals of North America. So now, without further ado, please help me to welcome Vasanthi. Hello there, welcome. Okay, oops, yeah, mute. Welcome,
Hi,
Vasanthi.
thank you,
Okay.
Joy. Thank you very much for inviting me for this program to share this fantastic science called Ayurveda.
Super. Thank you so much for doing this series with me, and I'm really excited to dive deep. Finally, the time has come for our first episode together, so this is awesome. Now, let's start this off on a fun note. Give us a fun fact about yourself that most people doesn't know about.
I see. Okay, I teach yoga, I teach Ayurveda, but it doesn't mean I always practice what I talk about.
Confession time, huh?
I'm only human. I'm not, I mean, Ayurveda yoga is very steeped in philosophy. Ayurveda is one, I mean, in my opinion, it's honestly a beautiful science. And I would love to say that I'm practicing every aspect of it, but I'm human.
Well, I think that thank you for the courage to admit that. I think that's actually a very powerful sharing because then I think it encourages people to just keep trying and no one's perfect. And it's really a practice, isn't it? That means showing up every day and doing it anyway. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, whether you were successful in implementing Ayurveda in your life. Today is a brand new day and you can try it again. So thank you for the courage. And also, I think it really serves as a good encouragement for the rest of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Vasanthi, so let's dive into our conversation. Can you start off by sharing with us how did you first started with Ayurveda?
Oh, okay. Way back in, I mean, I learned, I'm from Singapore, born and brought up, and I went to India in 1995 to learn yoga. And when I was there, I stumbled upon Ayurveda. They had some Ayurveda doctors there, but it never ignited anything in me. Then I
Hmm.
came back to Singapore, was teaching yoga and all. And then again, I came across another Ayurveda physician. And I was quite intrigued and interested, all right, learning more about it. But my final, I think my third one that really got me going was when I actually attended a structured course on Ayurveda. And in there, which is true, Ayurveda has 8 branches, right? Even though it's a vast science, it also has, it's like general medicine, it has a branch of pediatrics and all. And one of the branch is actually surgery. And when I learned that Ayurveda actually is the first science to come to advocate no surgery, something in me just triggered. I really don't know what, Joy, but something in me really triggered and said, "This is a fascinating science discovered thousands
Hmm.
of years ago. I need to tell people about it." And this being Singapore, the only way I can tell is we have to form an association. So with with my classmates, we all formed the Ayurveda Association, and all of us are very passionate about it and just going around talking about it. And because it's a universal science, it's applicable. And I was the only Indian, by the way, in that class. Everyone else was Chinese. So it is not, it is from India, but it is applicable across the board for anyone so long you're a human being.
Wow, thank you for the sharing. Yes, I think it's good to burst one of our first myths here that Ayurveda is only for Indian. That's completely not true. As you mentioned, it's for any living human being who has an interest in taking care of their well-being. So thank you for highlighting that. I didn't know that it is the first sign to advocate no surgery. So wow, that's fascinating for me. Hmm. Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Actually, what happened was I read the history when the British occupied India. Some of the British earlier used to have the nose surgery where they actually will cut off someone else's nose and put it on the person who needs that nose, implant. But in Ayurveda, what they do is actually they cut off the flap from the skin here. So if a person doesn't have a nose, maybe because, I mean, they asked 5,000 years ago, what is the purpose, Vasanthi, for this? But 5,000 years ago, there were wars happening, right? And
Hmm.
one of the punishment during war would be what? Chop off the nose,
Oh,
right? So chopping off the
wow.
nose, yeah, then the bacteria gets into the head and then they obviously will die. So Ayurveda has come up with a step-by-step procedure, and it's amazing. Like taking the flap from here, this part would have been dry. They would have taken a scalpel or something and let the blood ooze out and twist that flap and put it across here. It's just amazing. When I read the step by step, I said, this is a fascinating science. It cannot just stay there. It has to go out. You can
Wow.
see I'm excited about
Yes,
it.
I was going to highlight that part. Like, audience, can you hear the excitement that Vasanti have, and can you understand why now I was like, I have to bring her on the show because she have so much to offer us in terms of tips about whole brain and healing. It's amazing. Okay, so now maybe we can start off by sharing with us about holistic health, right? What exactly is holistic health?
Okay, so if you look at Ayurveda, it means Ayur and Veda. Ayur means life, Veda means knowledge. So, knowledge of life, not just human life or Indian life. It's life, including the universe, including the plants, including the animals, the minerals, everything in the universe is Ayurveda. So, holistic health from an Ayurveda perspective takes into consideration me as a human being, a microcosm. How do I live in harmony with the macrocosm? So, making sure that I live in harmony with both, and that, what works for me may not work for you, June, and what works for you may not work for your husband, right? So, it is
Mm.
very individualistic in that sense. But very easy to learn if you can just grasp that fundamental principles.
Okay. So what is the okay? So how does Ayurveda enables holistic living?
So if you look at it in terms of macrocosm and microcosm, right? So if I say, for example, just a simple example of digestion. Now everybody is talking about gut health, gut health. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was interesting. I was reading an article just recently. All right, I think it's about 7th of July. Somebody sent me, and there the editor was saying this is the first time we are coming across an information that we never heard about. I felt like saying, excuse me, Ayurveda heard about this 5,000 years ago. Ayurveda has been talking about digestion as the key to the health. Now everyone is now going on board digestion, digestion, digestion. But you know what?
Mm.
Digestion in Ayurveda is not alone digestion. It means assimilation of the food, including absorption, assimilation, and making that raw material that we put into the mouth into usable material. Up and above, elimination has to happen. If you are not eliminating on a daily basis, then its digestion is only half of the problem solved. You see, modern medicine has not talked about elimination now. If you go
Mm.
to a doctor, like I used to take parents to the doctor, they say, fine, if he doesn't go to the toilet 1-2 days, it's fine. In Ayurveda, and I'm pretty sure in TCM also, they said, no, you have to eliminate every day. The feces, the bowel movement has to go every day. That shows, then the digestion is all the way from here to the end. That's one aspect of holistic health.
Oh wow, I didn't know that's it you have to do digestion and you need to remove your bowel daily, and this is part of the practice for Ayurveda. I can see how the whole holistic concept comes into play. It's not just when something is wrong and then you seek treatment for it. It's what you do on a daily basis as well to maintain your health in an optimal state. Am I getting this correct?
Yes, yes, yes. And on top of it, Ayurveda is not just treatment. Ayurveda actually advocates prevention. The first thing they talk about is prevention of disease, and then when you're healthy, to promote you as a healthy person, and finally comes treatment. In fact, Ayurveda says if your diet and lifestyle is not proper, if it's not balanced according to the Ayurvedic principle, then medicine is of no value. And if you have good diet and lifestyle, you don't need medicine, right? So diet
Mm.
and lifestyle, if it's good, you don't need medicine. And when you take medicine, but Ayurvedic medicine, when you take any of the herbal treatment, but you don't change your diet and lifestyle, then medicine is of no value.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Vasanthi, I know you have prepared some things that you want to share with us with regards to holistic uh, health. So, would you like to start with what you mentioned earlier, the microcosm, the five universal states?
Yes. Okay.
Hmm.
So I just have to admit this is the first time I'm used to doing trainings, all my Ayurveda training with the PowerPoint. So this is the first time I'm talking about Ayurveda without PowerPoint.
I'm your PowerPoint here. Have no fear.
Okay, so to understand Ayurveda, actually, before I start, I want to say Ayurveda is very easy. It is very profound, but very easy to learn. So easy that animals are practicing Ayurveda. Do you see animals attending Ayurveda courses? Do they? I don't see any
Wow.
monkeys. I don't see monkeys and animals coming to my class, but it is basically living in harmony with the universe. Now, the universe, according to Ayurveda, is made up of five great elements. Now, I want to highlight here the word element is actually the English word, does not translate directly what Ayurveda talks about. Ayurveda talks about in Sanskrit language, Pancha means five, Maha means great, Bhuta is something, there's no English translation. All right. So these five great things that exist in the world exist in every aspect of the whole universe, exist in you, exist in me. All right.
Mm.
So these five principles, the first one is what you call space. I'm again using English word, but it doesn't directly explain what it's trying to say. So the universe has space, right? Only when I have space, I can put things there. The table must have a space for me to put my things, right? Likewise, in our body, we have space. So, Joy, you tell me, what are the spaces in the human body?
Wow,
Guess.
spaces in the human body, like
The human, yeah.
um, I'm not an expert in biology, so I'm not sure what the answer is. Like
Just,
like the nostril, like
yeah,
that's where air goes in.
yes, all the spaces. So what's out there in the universe as space? We have it like the nostril, the ear, the eye cavity, the gut, right? You must have space in your gut for the food to go in. There must be space in the blood capillary for the blood to flow through, right? So there's space in the womb, there's space in the rectum. So all these would be the space. So as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. That's the first one. The next is what we call air, right? Air is actually principle of movement. So what would you say is the movement in the human body?
Movement, like the blood circulation,
Good.
um, all our neural pathways.
Exactly.
Mm.
All these would encompass the movement in the human body. In the
Mm.
universe, the moving, the wind, the trees, and all those moving because of the wind. For us, we talk about movement as in all the involuntary and voluntary movement, right? Both the
Mm.
voluntary movement. So if the eyelid, or for example, if let's say a person has constipation, then we say the movement is not happening smoothly, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's how they look at it. So they just see only in terms of the big picture and then they narrow in into the small one. The
Mm.
third one is what we call fire or Agni. Now, this is a bit tricky. If I ask you, do we have fire in the body? My whenever I ask this question, do we have fire? Some of them go, do we not? So I will save you the trouble. If we had fire, all of us would be dead. Okay. So the fire would actually mean the transformation capacity, the ability for the raw material, the food that I put in my mouth, that then transform to usable nutrients for my body, for it to become energy. So the transformation is what we refer to as fire. Actually, the Sanskrit word is Agni. So this transformation also includes thought transformation. For example, I'm speaking to you, it's actually traveling through space, and then its movement, which is air, it's going to your
Mm.
thought, and then it's transforming, and you're having that aha moment, right? Oh, so this is what they mean by fire in the five elements, right? So, another classical example I gave in my classes is if I eat banana and I go toilet, will banana come out?
Yeah, definitely
Obviously,
not.
no. Because if banana does come out, I won't be sitting here talking to you, Joy. I probably will be in ER. So the transformation, the banana that goes in as raw material that's being transformed into usable nutrients for my body at the cellular level, right up to the energy level, is what fire, the third element, does. The fourth one is what we call water, jala. Now, when we use the word water, automatically we only think of water. But here, water means all liquidity substance. So the liquid will be the mucus, the blood, all right, all that mucousy stuff in our body. That's where water comes in. And
Mm.
finally, the fifth state is what we call earth. Again, the word English word earth does not translate. Earth means the final matter, right? The physical body. So if you look at it, it is basically E equals mc squared. Energy and matter are the same. It starts with unseen space, right? From space, it becomes the human body. So let's just take an example of ice cube. Let's do a reverse. So this is how the body is, human body is created from unseen to seen, and then from seen to unseen, right? So when the body dies, all right, that's how the Indians would say, they'll never say you die. They say the body is the one that dies, or the soul leaves the body. When the body dies, so this is matter, this is earth. So the first thing to separate from earth, the body, is actually water. If you look at an
Mm.
apple, you leave an apple to let it rot, you will notice the water coming out. So the principle, the five principle of space, air, fire, water, earth, in that sequence is how evolution happens, and the reverse when we pass on as well. That's how it happens, right? Even creation, if you take an ice cube, the ice cube itself, what we call matter, as in earth, Prithvi. So when it's melting, it becomes water, right? There's fire inherent, that the transformation is constantly happening. Then it becomes vapor, right? It's moving, it becomes vapor, air, and then it goes into space. Then it becomes cloud, and then it rains water, and then it becomes ice. So this whole process is happening in the universe. The whole process is happening within us. So Ayurveda says this
Mm.
is what it means by as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. If I can understand from this principle that we are all made of these five great substance, then we have um, understood one basic aspect of Ayurveda. Is that clear for you?
Yes, thanks for sharing. It comes to mind this saying like, as in within, so is without. That's what comes to my mind.
Yes, yes. And that comes to the subtle aspect of the spirituality and all, which I won't go into it, but Ayurveda is not just medicine.
Mm.
Ayurveda came up with this whole science because it looked at the universe. It looked at the universe and see how the universe operates, looks at the human beings and said, okay, this is how we human beings operate. And the body has to be healthy if it wants to have certain pursuits in life. So let's, see what we can do to keep the body, mind healthy, right? So the subtle aspect also covers the mind, right? So transformation, they also talk about thought transformation. So these five great elements, they call it five great states or five great elements, combine to form what we call the functional principles of the body. How do you understand how the body operates? It's actually very simple. Space and air combine to form what we call vata. There is no English translation, but you can just call it the principle of movement, right? Fire and water combine to form what we call pitta, the principle of transformation. There is more fire than water. Finally, water and earth combine to form the principle of stability, cohesion, coming together, right?
Mm.
So vata, pitta, kapha are what we call movement, transformation, stability, or cohesion coming together. So, Joy, I'm going to ask you now questions, and you need to answer only in terms of vata, pitta, and kapha. Vata is
Okay.
principle of movement, pitta is transformation, kapha is
Mm.
like coming together, the stability.
Mm.
So let's say I'm eating food now. I put food in my mouth and I'm chewing. Vata, pitta, or kapha?
Movement, vata.
Good. See, you've already learned Ayurveda. So the food in the mouth, which is separated, it now the carbohydrate gets converted with the salivary amylase, right? The conversion happens in the mouth itself. So what's that?
Pitta, transformation.
Exactly, pitta. And the food that was separated comes together as bolus, right? Like one lump in the mouth. So that coming, the mucus and all mixing, that, what do you call that?
Kapha, stability.
Kapha. Exactly. When I swallow, swallowing is what?
Movement, vata.
Exactly. So if an elderly person or someone has swallowing issue, then the Ayurveda physician will say, okay, the vata needs to be adjusted, needs to be corrected.
Mm.
So peristaltic movement, right? The food goes down all the way. The peristaltic movement is what?
Movement, vata.
So for the bolus to go through very smoothly down the track, it is the esophagus is covered with membrane, the mucous membrane that prevents friction, that allows the food to go very nicely and smoothly down. So that mucus, the liquidity thing that facilitates that movement of food would be what?
Transformation, Pitta?
There's no transformation happening. It's only movement and the mucous membrane, the mucousy thing, the slippery thing. Mucus would be
Movement?
kapha.
Oh,
Movement is vata. So you
yeah.
see, once I swallow, the peristaltic movement is vata, food goes down. The mucous membrane allows the smooth flowing to happen. Right? So for example, let's say if this is a surface, there's oil on the surface, the movement will be smoother, as opposed to if there's no oil, there'll be more friction. Right? So the mucous membrane allows, that's the kapha, that allows for the smoothness of things to happen. Right? So once the food is in the stomach, the food moves and churns, the stomach moves, the movement is vata. The bolus then gets converted to chyle and chyme and all, that's then pitta. Right? All the enzymes coming together to transform, to cover the fat, to break down the amino acid, that's pitta, all the transformation happening. Right? So vata, pitta, kapha is happening at the gross level, at the big level, even at the small cellular level. So each cell, right, has receptors. Kapha is also binding, right? Every cell has thousands and millions of receptors. Now, when the nutrients has to go and bind, right? Now people talk about depression, the hormones and all that are released. They are not binding with the receptor. The binding is kapha. So if the binding doesn't work properly, you can do whatever you like. If the binding is not corrected, then you're going to face issue. So we'll have to look at working at the binding factor. Right? So nutrients will go in. When it's nutrients moving into the cell, the movement is vata. Inside the cell, it is transforming into ATP, energy, and all that transformation within the cell is pitta. The waste material coming out, the actual waste, that's kapha. The movement of waste material is vata. So vata and kapha are working in a dynamic interplay. The same thing is happening in thoughts, right? I'm saying something about vata, pitta, kapha. The information is traveling. The movement is vata. When it goes into your brains and it transforms and like, wow, this is a fascinating science, then your pitta is good. If you don't understand the thing and you say, geez, I really have no clue, the pitta is not transforming properly. And if it doesn't stay as a memory, it doesn't bind. We don't have memory. We don't remember next day, like, what did Vasanthi say? Then the kapha, the binding factor is not effective. So you will see so many parents, or at least I have experienced parents coming to me and telling Vasanthi, my child, teacher says the child is so good in class, he can grasp information, he can learn, but he can't seem to remember. Then I tell the parent, the child's memory, kapha, needs to be worked on.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned about depression. So I thought that's pretty in alignment with Self Care Friday. I'm fascinated to learn about the whole binding action, how it influences whether someone will be more prone to depression. Would you able to elaborate more on that?
Okay, that again goes to what we would say your unique body type. So many factors play a role. So Ayurveda, that's why it's holistic. It's not just one thing that plays a role. You will notice that in Europe, a lot of people, the study shows that most of the suicide cases happen during, Christmas, New Year, winter. So the weather is cold. So kapha is also heavy. So vata is movement as well as it is drying. A lot of movement leads to drying. When the fan is moving a lot, it leads to drying, right? Pitta is heat, it transforms. Kapha is heavy. So when a person is feeling heavy, then that is a heavy depression. As opposed to a person who's very anxious, moving, that's a vata depression. If a person gets very angry, that's a pitta depression. So we don't have one type of depression, as in like I'm just giving you a simple. There's far much more classification, but everything Ayurveda looks at from the point of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. There is never a one solution fits all. So the person is also Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So that will be the first thing we need to do. What is your body type? Because a Vata person can be more prone to anxiety compared to a Kapha person, because Vata has more space and air, right? So if they have more
Mm.
space and air, there's more movement allowing that. So a Vata person should be more grounded. Kapha person has more water and earth in the body. So they are by nature more grounded. But if they experience depression, they go more downwards. Get it?
Okay, so yeah, wow, lots to digest. So my brain is really furiously trying to capture and digest and process everything, transformed everything that you are saying.
Because
So,
I'm also trying to, give this. So that's another reason, perhaps.
so let me see if I got you correct. So if someone is body type is kapha, then his depression will be the pretty heavy in nature. And here, where we say heavy, are we meaning like this person will really go into the negative, recession thought loops? Is that what it means?
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm not saying there are only three types of depression. All right, in diabetes, Ayurveda talks about 20 types of diabetes, right?
Mm,
So according to the Vata Pitta Kapha, I'm just giving you a simplistic overview of a Kapha person. So
mm,
let's take a simplistic version. If a Kapha person is depressed, a Kapha person can also have Vata depression, right? So we need to not
mm.
necessarily, the Kapha person is more prone to Kapha depression, but he may
Ah,
or she may have Vata or Pitta type of depression, right?
okay.
But if we say there's something that you are more prone to, right? So the Kapha person is more prone to Kapha type of depression, which is downward pulling. So yes, they could be negative. They may not want to come out of the bed. They don't want to go out anywhere. You just have to drag them out. So that's Kapha.
Mm,
Vata is like ADHD sometimes, anxiety, they're worried all the time, anxious, because there's so much of space. They're just all over the place, worrying and worrying and worrying about so many things. That's just too much of movement. So
mm,
generally speaking, there's also, of course, specifics, right? I'm just giving you a general idea to show you that there is never a one solution fits all. It's very unique for everyone. That was the
mm.
whole purpose of mentioning this.
Okay, so in order to simplify it for our audience, would it be correct if I were to say that? Okay, so I'm testing my pita here, I think. So a vata kind of depression would be more anxiety prone in nature. A pitta type of depression would be like more anger prone, like in terms of how it's being manifested. And a kapha kind of depression will be more like people who moan a lot, and like mopping a lot and hiding in their room, refusing to go out and socialize.
Hmm.
Am I, is it something like that?
It is like that, but just to let you know, this is a very simplistic version.
Mm,
Right? There are different variations as well,
mm,
and so many external factors. That's why we call it
mm,
a holistic science. But just to give you an understanding that it is never a one solution. So if a person has depression, you just don't give them one medicine. You need to
mm.
find out their body type. You need to find out the external factors that's triggering that depression. You need to see what type of food they are eating. You need to see the kind of environment they are living in. All these would then play a role.
Wow, fascinating. So my background is in positive psychology, uh, and I train in different modalities, but I have never been exposed to seeing depression, anxiety in this kind of paradigm. So this is most fascinating for me. So yeah, so my brain is like, I can feel it like in kind of like incubation stage, like, we need to process this a bit more. It's yeah, I'm really hooked right now.
Is it? Do you think it's too deep?
No, I think that it takes a while getting used to, because it's very different from most, I think, most things out there. I think that is also why I was fascinated with Ayurveda in the first place many years ago, and I couldn't really put a finger to it why I was fascinated, but I was just quite drawn to it. As you were sharing, I could kind of understand why I was drawn to it, because everything that you say makes sense, but because we're not used to this paradigm, so it takes a while for the brain to process what you are saying. But everything is kind of like the brain is like, it makes sense. The logical mind can sit with it, just that it's not used to the way it's being presented.
Ayurveda is actually a logical science. So if you say vata is movement and too much of movement leads to drying, so you just have to give the opposite, right? So drying,
Mm.
the opposite of drying is something more oily and unctuous. So when we look at nutrition, we say a one solution. Oh, I think it was in the 1980s that United States or the West came across this, advocating no fat diet, no fat diet. So everybody removed, fat from the body. But the body needs good fat. So if there is drying, you need to add what you call unctuousness or oil. That's why Ayurveda has a lot of oil treatment. Oil either on the body, oil either by intake, right? And if you look at the brains, the quality, see, Ayurveda only sees in terms of quality. If you look at your brain looks like a butter. It is very anxious. The nervous system is very anxious. So if it's drying, then the information does not go through smoothly. That's why you have things like Parkinson's and dementia, because if it's very dry, you need to give that anxiousness, you need to oil it. Basically, you need to oil the body. So good fat is very important. And if you look at the trend, the fad, oh no, no fat, no fat, no fat. And then lately they did the research, oh yes, fat,
That's
fat, yeah.
that good.
And now I see some of my friends in US are taking coconut oil, right? Because coconut oil is very good. Yes, coconut oil is good. And then there was this person telling me, Vasanthi, I take coconut oil every morning. And I'm like, no, 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 don't. Because Ayurveda also has Vata, Pitta, Kapha according to the days, the time in the morning. Morning
Oh.
is kappa time. If morning is kappa, there's more water earth in the environment. Your digestion is also very low. When the digestion is low, you don't go and plunk it with the oil. Then the oil will not, you don't, the digestive fire is not going to be ignited to digest the food. Right? So kappa time is
Mm.
not the time to take heavy food and oily food. See, so many factors to take into consideration. So now
Mm.
people are just taking that oil, that coconut oil, thinking it's good. It is what we call a reductionist approach. Oil is good, but can you take it? Is your digestive fire good? Secondly,
Mm.
what's your body type? If you're a kappa body type, you already have earth and water, you don't have enough fire, then this oil may not necessarily be good for you. In fact, it will block your channels and cause more problem.
Mm. So it seems like there are several points in the conversation where it goes back to what is your body type. So it sounds like it's a very fundamental question before for anything that you want to do with relation to Ayurveda and holistic health. So how does one person find out whether they are Vata, Pitta, or Kapha?
Good question. So there are actually Vata, Pitta, Kapha, three functional principles, but there are seven body types. But Ayurveda say everyone is unique because of the percentage, right? So you can be either predominant. We all have the five elements in us. All of us have space, air, fire, water, earth. We have this. But it's in permutation, combination that makes us either more Vata, more Pitta, or more Kapha. So you have either predominantly Vata, predominantly Pitta, predominantly Kapha, or you have the Vata, Pitta, Pitta, Kapha combination, and you have Vata, Pitta, Kapha 3. So there are seven body types, but still all of them are unique. To find out your body type, you will have to go through an extensive questioning, because
Oh.
we look at the question. First, we look at the physical attributes, we look at your digestion, we look at the time when you were at the peak of your health. What was your digestion like, to find out your body type? So now many people are going through, say, issues in the life. That is what we call deviation of the body type. If you have deviated, then that's not your body type. You need to find out what's your body type, and that takes an extensive questioning, filling up some forms. There are so many books available where you can fill up the forms, but what I always tell my friends and participants and students is, when you fill up the form, counter check with somebody who knows you very well, because the form will even say simple things. What's your nail like? If you have a very dry type of nail, then that's vata, right? If your nail is very red in color, that's more pitta, right? It's very glowy, smooth, shiny. That's kapha. Now everybody is going to think I've got nice, smooth, glowy, shiny. No one's going to say I've got dry lips and dry nails. So you won't be able to assess if you have that perception of yourself. This form is not a judgment form. It is a form to know what's your body type. That's neither good nor bad, so that you can then live in harmony or live in accordance with that body type.
So you think it is safe for someone to just refer to a book and go through all this questioning without, someone trained in Ayurveda? Is it
Uh,
advisable?
if it's just for knowledge, self-care knowledge to understand, yes, it is okay. I went through that. But I can tell you one thing. It took me a long time. And in fact, even Ayurveda doctors could not assess my body type. Only
Oh,
when yes, they were wrong. They knew pitta was predominant. Okay, so that's true. Because the way I talk, I'm very excited. There's so much of fire in me when I talk. That pitta is predominant. But how much of vata I have, how much of kapha I have, whether I'm predominantly pitta, whether I'm pitta vata, or whether I'm vata pitta, that they couldn't guess. And I myself didn't know, right? But only after studying Ayurveda, going deeper into it, I started knowing for myself, and I can easily tell for my family, my nieces and nephews and all of them. I can tell easily. It took some time to understand, but once you grasp that, it's very easily done.
wow. Okay. So, but how does normal people
So
like myself find out
okay,
what our body type without that
I'll give
years
you a
of
very
training?
very simple one. All right. So let's look
Yeah.
at very simply Vata, Pitta, Kapha body type. Vata is
Okay.
movement, right? Vata is movement. So if a person you tell him, come, let's go for a movie. Oh, okay, because they're moving. The thoughts are moving. Okay, let's go movie. Let's go watch Batman. No. Maybe we change it to Spider-Man. Okay, 4 o'clock. No, maybe 2 o'clock. I tell you what, so that all that changes that's happening, fluctuating, constantly moving, that's predominantly Vata. Pitta
So you're
person has
analyzing a person's
behavior as well as
mm,
physical attributes, mental and
and
emotional
physical.
attributes.
Okay. So Vasanti, can we just for fun, like say use me as an example, so people can use that as a case study. Um, so which category would you place me in?
You're putting me in a very difficult situation. I need to know you very well, right? Know what you were like before and what you are now. So
Hmm.
okay, the mental aspect can be changed, but the physical attributes will never be changed. So physically you could
Hmm.
be Vata, but mentally you could be Kapha. The
Hmm.
physical attributes, we are born with it, we will die. So if I were born Pitta, I will die a Pitta no matter what. But my mental attributes by nature, when I was young, oh boy, was I an angry person. I used to get angry
Hmm.
so many times. The nature, that's the pitta nature, the fire. But after learning yoga, after doing the meditation and all, then that aspect can change. The
Hmm.
compassion, the heart aspect, the mental thing can change. But I am
Hmm.
still, no matter what, a pitta. So when I take spicy food in a hot environment, I do tend to get flare-ups because that's pitta, heat, right? So
Hmm.
I'm mindful, I have to be careful about taking spicy food because I am already got this much of spice compared to a kapha person. So if I'm taking, if this is my level of spice, I'm taking that, I can get aggravated. My pitta can get more and I can get burning sensation and all.
Hmm.
Whereas a kapha person, he's got that much of tolerance for heat because he's got more water and earth in the body, less fire. So you can put
Hmm.
more spicy there. So
Hmm.
coming back to your question, for the very
Hmm.
limited that I know you, right, Joy? I feel maybe in the past life I knew you more, but the very little that I know you, it could be Vata, Kapha. But now with the COVID and all, a lot of people are anxious, things changes and all. It's not easy to tell. I'll have to sit down and have a deep
Mm,
conversation with them before I can tell.
mm. So
And
you mean
even
you think that I'm a Vata Kapha type, as in like my mind or the body?
the body.
Um,
The mind is Kappa. I read your book, The Shakti Mama say it's a fascinating book. You know, see what you were going through. There could have been Pitta element. So I need to know what were you at the peak of your health before we can assess Vata, Pitta, or Kappa. And I can tell you it's
mm.
not an easy answer. If anyone tell you immediately, yes, this is what you are, I will have my doubts.
So I'm fascinated to hear you say that because I have this bottle of Ayurveda oil, which I think is from some years ago. I still have it. So I think it's I went to some massage place, maybe Ayurvedic massage place, and the person gave me this oil, and it's a pitta oil. So I just kind of all this time just assumed that, oh, that means I'm a pitta because they never we didn't have any extensive questioning and so on. She just asked me a few questions, and then she said, okay, pita, and then she gave me this oil. So I vaguely remember that episode. So so comparing that experience with what you're saying, so I'm really surprised that, oh, actually you need an extensive questioning to find out, or maybe even after that, an extended period of time to find out what exactly is your type. So that's quite interesting. Mm.
Yeah, but when she say pitta, it could mean two things. Either you are pitta, which is also true, Joy. You're a person who get things done just like that. Poo, 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 poo. That's pitta. That's really pitta, right? So you said a few years ago. So I only know you just this few moments. So it's not easy for me to assess. So when you say pitta, is it pitta oil to balance something that you have, or is it pitta oil to make the pitta big? Do you understand? So, for
Mm.
example, I will say this is a pitta oil because you are not, you need more pitta. You need to bring
Get
up.
it. Okay. So,
Or in pitta, she used the word pitta because you have too much of pitta. I need to give you, maybe the oil is not pitta, it brings your pitta down.
oh, I have to go and examine what's inside the oil. I mean, the label outside basically say pita. So I'm like, oh, I'm pita. So I'll be walking around thinking that I'm pita. But then there's always this a little tiny voice like, are you sure? Because she only asked me a few questions. So I've always wondered about that at the back of my head for many years.
Send it to me by WhatsApp. I'll maybe look at it and let you know.
Super. Oh, okay. So now you really perked my curiosity. So what about you, audience? I'm sure you also must be very curious now. What is my body type? So what would you
Yeah.
recommend for someone to find out what is their body type? Since it's a very important first step to even to use Ayurveda for holistic health.
So my personal journey, because I'm not an Ayurveda doctor, I want to make that very clear, right? I'm not an Ayurveda doctor. It took me a long time to try and understand, and now I've trying to make it simplified, hopefully, right? So simplicity and keeping it simple. My first step was actually reading Deepak Chopra, but even though
Mm,
I would say a little bit on the commercialized side, if you have
yes.
zero clue, if you don't know anything about Ayurveda, maybe that is the first step. I will not ask you to go and read Padartha Vijnana, which is a deep learning, or any of those books behind. You know, Ashtanga Hridaya is the classical text. I won't do that. First step, if you have zero knowledge, maybe that would be one of the first thing to ignite your curiosity. That's how I started.
Okay. So do you think someone should go to a clinic to Ayurveda clinic to find out?
Yeah, that's another challenge we faced here because this is again my personal experience, all right, and also having had the Ayurveda Association of Singapore and having received so many emails from people. We are not a policing organization, so at least here in the beginning, a lot of them who came, the doctors who came, were fresh graduates, right?
Uh,
I go to India. It's what you call from your parents, grandparents. You know, it's passed down. So if that most of the doctors, the really good qualified ones, stay in India. They don't want to go out and earn a living. So the fresh ones, they come, and then Ayurveda, I said, is universal. If you know this food quality is drying, then if I'm a drying quality, I need to take something more unctuous. So most of them only eat Indian food. The first Ayurveda class I attended, the doctor was fantastic. He gave so much of information, but he said, all of you must eat dosa. All of you must eat Indian food. And I'm thinking, I'm Indian, but born and brought up in Singapore, 3 generations. I don't eat Indian food every day. My mother cooks Chinese food. She cooks Malay food, But I knew there was value here. What can I do? So I decided to do a lot. Go to the doctor, go and find out. But I never encourage anyone to go into this package. Don't go and sign up. You need to resonate with the doctor. You need to feel comfortable. The doctor has to be honest with you and say, look, this is the situation. Your prakriti is this. Be open. And if it resonates, yeah, continue. It's a very tough question. I generally don't like to comment.
It sounds to me like the best way is you can't cheat. The best way is to learn it yourself. It's going to take time and effort, but that is the best way since nobody knows your own body better than yourself. I would
Yes.
think.
They can tell your deviation. And if you're talking, you're going, a person walks into the doctor's room very fast, the doctor will know, okay, this is vata aggravated, right? If a person comes and sits and okay, there's pitta happening there. The person walks very slowly, drags the feet, then okay, this kapha, these are things the doctors can tell, but this is your current state. Whether your current state is your body type, that's time to tell.
So this is really meant in a light-hearted way. So when you were describing all that with all the walking as an example, immediately came to my mind was my parents, because my mom walks very fast, and I used to walk very fast because I learned from her. Now that I'm based more in Malaysia, I think I walk slower because in Malaysia they don't walk as fast as Singaporean, and my father walked very slow. So I'm always the one walking in the middle for some time, because I was kind of like, okay, to be fair, right? So I walk in the middle, but then that means everyone is walking by themselves. I think at some point as a child, I got fed up, and I decided I'll just walk with mom, and then I started walking faster since then. So I become a fast walker, and I guess my personality is also like, yeah, everything has to be fast, decisions and action. So it makes me think like, oh, does that mean that my mom is more like a vata, because she walks so fast and she wants to get things done, and my father is more like a kapha because she walks slow and she's like, everything in life is like, it's okay, don't worry, and they're like opposites.
So they use this term. Kappa is like, it's okay, don't worry, be happy. That's Kappa's tagline, right? Pitta is do it my way or you're on the highway, Yeah, Vata is like anywhere, anything will do. I can go all over the place.
Oh my gosh. So this is a funny question, since I brought up my parents. So do you think there's such a thing as well in terms of couple compatibility? Like maybe it's better if they are two different body types that actually complement each other.
Oh, it's a good question, but we also use this actually the Vata Pitta Prakriti, the form. It's called Prakriti. We do use this form to find the right person for your job, for the employment. Couples, that's your choice lah. But if you know each other's body type, if you know your nature is to walk slowly, I cannot prod and drag you to walk fast. I need to know that's your kappa, your body type. I need to understand. If I know your nature is pitta, I need to know. So that's where the couple aspect will come in. But when it comes to employment, I tell you, it's one of the best, because a kappa person by nature love to sit. You get them to go and do sales job, go knock hello, hi. They won't like. So getting the right person for the right job, right? Vata person love to move here. You get them to sit down and do database entry. They will never be happy because their nature is to move. So give them the job that will enhance that nature, which but will not aggravate that nature.
Well, Vasanti, I'm so amazed. Like, Ayurveda is really so wide-reaching. This episode, we're going to talk about holistic health, but then so many other things come in, and it's so irresistible. We talk about couples compatibility, about employment, even now. So it's like nothing is left untouched. Nothing that Ayurveda cannot help to support. So I find that really amazing. But I want to drag us back to our topic because this could be a whole year long series with all the topics that we can
Yeah.
cover. So I want to cover a little bit about some of the general questions that sometimes you get from other people. So for example, okay, so I think one of it has already been answered, like do we need to eat Indian food or take Indian herbs to balance our body? I think we kind of started the show already smashing that myth that this is not only for Indian treatment and lifestyle, it is for everyone. So I personally like this next question, given that I'm positive psychology based and it's all about research for me. So is Ayurveda an evidence-based science?
That's really a lot. There are so much of research done to actually substantiate Ayurveda. A lot. If you look at the research that's coming out after, I mean, now look, they are now in the West. They are talking about oil. Ayurveda 5,000 years ago said oil is needed. We coconut oil is good, right? Now modern medicine is saying yes, oil is needed for brain health, right? Gut health is something Ayurveda talked about from day one. Now modern medicine is coming to this side and say, so there are a lot of evidence, a
Mm,
lot. And that's
great.
why I was invited to speak at Malaysian Medical Association because they do see that it is evidence based.
Mm. So this coconut oil it's I haven't been reading up recently about it, but I think there was one period where I was also thinking whether I should get coconut oil. I personally like the coconut juice itself, the coconut fruit itself, not the oil per se, but sometimes I use it on my hair. I do have the coconut oil spray for my hair, so I'm not so much into the oil, but I also um I see conflicting evidence, so-called research. Some saying that coconut oil is good for consumption, some saying it's not. So it's a little bit confusing out there for me.
Okay, so that's where you say reductionist approach.
Mm.
Ayurveda talks about holistic approach. For example, if I'm Kapha body type, I should not be taking coconut oil. If I take coconut oil in the morning, it will be more counterproductive for me. So the research that they do, maybe they are taking some kapha, pitta, kapha, all the different body type and making them take coconut oil in the morning. So it won't
Oh,
work. So afternoon when the sun is out and it's more heat, that's when coconut oil will be able to be digested. If you take coconut oil and leave it in a cold room, what happens to the coconut oil? It hardens, right?
yes.
Yeah, you need that oil to be flowing in your bloodstream and going and doing what it's supposed to do. So the using that modern way of research, Ayurveda does not fit in there. That's why you get the conflicting answers because Ayurveda is holistic. Research is done in a very reductionist way. They're just taking one alkaloid or alkaline and not taking all the other factors. Age plays a very important role as well. Elderly people, their digestive fire is very low. So they will not be able to digest oil as good as a youngster.
So thank you for the clarification. I think this is really very important. I guess for research scientists, they are always out just to test an hypothesis. So yes, they need to isolate all the elements and they're just testing this particular factor. Everything else must stay the same. But humans, we are not same. We're also unique in
Yes.
our own ways. So I guess there is some conflict there in terms of the paradigm, the background or how research is done and how we should be looking at the different products per se, at the different topic in its whole context. So I have one final question for you. Ayurveda and yoga related?
Oh, they are absolutely. They are known as sister science because Ayurveda is a science of life, right? It's called the science of life. Yoga, it's more focused on the mind. So Ayurveda looks at the mind, the body, the emotion, the soul. I don't like to use the word soul, but it's Atma, including the sense organs. What yoga did was take out the whole aspect of the mind and says that mind is the cause of the disease, which Ayurveda says yes. Mind is the main cause, 99% of most of the disease. It then percolates into the body. Yoga recognizes that. Yoga just emphasizes a lot on the mind. Ayurveda has all these herbs, treatment, and all, but both need to go hand in hand.
Mm. Mm. So it's, I guess, the same situation as how Western science, Westerners, the Western society modernized, popularized Hatha yoga, which is physical yoga, but actually yoga has many different aspects as well, which includes the mind. But they kind of just isolate. Again, we're back to isolation, and as you mentioned, reductionist mindset, just
Yeah.
taking that one part that they like, missing the whole big picture. Would you think?
Yeah, yoga means union. So we have the mind, soul, body, all must be in alignment. When everything is in alignment, a person is in union. And when you're in union with yourself, you're in union with the universe, right? So yoga means union. Asana, if you look at the classical yoga text of Patanjali Yoga, he talks about 8 steps of yoga. Asana is postures. Posture is only the third step, right? The whole process is of the whole process of the 8 step is to make a person calm down, go within, internally. Yoga is about going within. So that's what Hatha yoga is, just the physical, and even now they have competition, which I find totally contradicting. The whole purpose of doing a posture is to observe your body, observe what's happening to your body, not to see, hey, how many points I'm getting, am I that's the whole purpose of asana postures.
Mm. Thank you for clarifying that. So, thank you, Vasanthi, for coming on the show. Share with us a bit more about our next series, part two, where we talk about Ayurveda with Prana. What can the audience look
Okay.
forward to?
Prana is the life force, right? The body, if a healthy person dies in a car accident and you take the body and put in a COVID hospital with all the COVID patient, will the body get infected? No, right? So the body is merely a tool for the soul to exist. Prana is the intermediate. Prana is the between the body and the mind. If you can manage the prana, the life force, the breathing they call it, right? The whole universe force is within us. If we can manage that, we can balance the body, we can balance the mind. So it's in between, and I'll be talking more about prana for food, prana for the mind, pranayama. Maybe I'll teach one technique on balancing the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system.
Awesome. Okay. So, we have covered one third of. Now, I'm like wondering maybe we should make it like a longer series. There's so much things to talk about. Gosh.
Yeah, it is a fascinating thing. It covers a lot. It really, really covers a lot.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Vasanthi. I had a lot of fun, and I think my brain will have to. I have to spend the rest of the day, maybe sleep over, processing all the wealth of information that you have shared with us. But definitely, these are very helpful for self care, and I can see how it helps in the healing. I'm also wondering whether we should have another episode just to focus on the brain part, since Ayurveda seems to be all inclusive.
Yes, I'll be happy to. That
Mhm.
yoga can cover as well, brain as in the mind, the thinking and all, right?
Mm, yes,
Sure.
because
Sure.
I was very surprised to learn today about the thoughts transformation element. It's not just about the transformation experienced by the body, but it is also about the transformations of our thoughts. So I thought that would be pretty useful. It is an important part of self care as well, knowing what you're thinking and being aware of it, and thinking thoughts that serve you rather than limit you. So
And
it
if
will
you
be.
digest your thoughts, certain people go through grief, go through trauma. If you're not able to digest it, even that is considered as digestion, then it blocks your channel. So we have both physical and invisible channel that prevents you from moving forward.
Okay, so I guess this is a discussion that we shall take off air, and looks like audience, you have a lot more to expect maybe from Vasanthi. So in the meantime, I am going to share a short video about an upcoming course that we have called the Strongest Self. So that is a course which is a two-in-one superpowered program where you can learn how to combine your character strengths with well-being strategies to continue to live well and to flourish, pandemic or otherwise. Okay, so this has been a great chat. So see you for part two on the 7th of August at 4 p.m. Thank you, Vasanthi, for coming on the show. Let's
Thank you.
end this show on a high note with our superpower pose. Awesome. Thank you for watching. To the next episode. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Joy Leng is a unique individual. She has superpowers, and that's a little bit of a play on words for what she provides. She digs deep into finding out where your power exists, because we're all different human beings. We all have a different thumbprint. We've all heard about that. We have a different fingerprint. She finds your unique DNA inside you, your emotional triggers, your superpowers, through a testing, a unique testing, a special testing. She did it on me. I was impressed. I found out how I'm different from all the others, the 7 billion people on the planet. I'm unique. I have my own DNA, my own thumbprint, my distinctiveness for me, Mitch Carson. There's only one of me. Joy was able to direct me quite strategically into discovering more about me than I ever knew in my years on this planet. And I ain't young. Been around a while. Learned a lot about me in order to be a better me and to utilize the strengths that she identified through her unique testing system, my superpowers that I can exhibit. Joy, you rock, and much more than roll. You are a superpower because you've identified the superpowers in me.
Hi, I'm Shirley here. I'm very gratified to have attended tonight's mini workshop. It's a very interactive and fun way to energize myself and realizing my full potential without even me knowing on my superpower. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tonight is a very short session and it's very empowering because from here I learned my superpowers and I know how to listen to others and to find out the superpowers. So from now onwards it's about activating superpowers.
Thank you.
Give us permission and to own our superpower, which also gives others permission, and it's like, what a wonderful way to live our lives.
Everybody has superpowers and we just need to generate curiosity to open up to them.
The superpowers of the people in my game group. So that's like, yeah, it's, yeah, very nice. Yeah.
I'm very self-conscious about doing this, but this workshop actually opened me up to see that I do have a superpower to talk about. While I would like to be in the background, but I realized that that's not possible with Joy bringing this workshop, to everyone. So I discovered that I have superpower that I don't even realize in the area of being grateful, in the area of being able to appreciate things in life. So I am so grateful that I'm here today. So thanks to Joy. I will be back to do more. Superpower!
Activate your superpower!
I think I learned a lot from my teammate, yeah, and I see that they complement or help me to strengthen my weakness. Like, help me to...
You should be proud of it.
Help me to...
See through. Understand.
I know my weakness, yeah. Help me to kind of...
Forgiveness?
yeah.
Forgiveness, hope, and
I see my weakness, of course, but I see there's a strength in facing that, my weakness.
I love it.
I realized that I have more than 3 superpowers, and I would like to say thank you, everybody. Nice meeting you guys, and thank you to you. I feel energy.
Hi, my name is Suli. This workshop is really so awesome. It activated the superpower in me, not just the top 3, but some others that's unknown. And it gives me the ability to listen for the superpower of other people that I'm talking to. So this is the takeaway which will really be enriching for me for the rest of my life.
Thank you so much.
Stars are in light, the weeper, we would know.